Hi there y'all, I'm Tom, and this is Empty Pantry Entrees, a place where you can come to learn all the skills you need to make delicious creations from only the odds and ends in your pantry. And today we're making some freaking incredible looking sea salt chocolate chunk cookies from none other than Joshua Weissman's channel. His video is linked up here or here, I honestly don't know my rights and left, so figure it out. It's one of those buttons. But anyways, I just want to start off and say that I am a god-awful baker. I've heard it been said before that baking is like a precise science with absolute measurements and, some very specific temperatures and times to get that exact rise time for the exact product that you want. And then stovetop cooking is all over here where you're throwing stuff into a pan, moving around on high heat. What does it even mean to have high heat on a stovetop pan? What temperature does that even mean? I don't know. You're just moving stuff around, tasting as you go, mixing around, and somehow you end up with something that's like, halfway decent. All I'm saying is baking is a science, and stovetop cooking, it's an improv concert. And that's me. But with that said, I think it's about time for us to move on so that I can fumble my way through this baking recipe, and you can tell me whether or not you think I did a good job in the comments below. Okay, bye! Hey, yo! The nice part about baking as a science, though, is that even a Dumbo like me can make my way through it. Working with a kitchen scale just makes it a very repeatable and easy process, regardless of whether or not you actually know what you're doing. Just make sure to zero out or tear your scale as you go, and work with controlled measurements. To start out our dry bowl, we've got about 400 grams of all-purpose flour going in, scooping out any extra if you poured a bit heavy-handedly. Look at me. Of course we're working in the metric system. I said that baking's a science. English units suck. Next up is 6 grams of salt as well as 8 grams of baking soda to act as our rising agent. Important thing to know is that most kitchen scales aren't super precise to the single gram level. It honestly can't tell the tiny difference between 5 and 6 grams, so if you slightly undershoot or overshoot, don't sweat it too much. Our second bowl now is going to be our sugar bowl. Working with dark brown sugar means we have a higher molasses content, leading to a more nutty taste in the end result. 350 grams of it go in the bowl, as well as 100 grams of granulated white sugar, ultimately decreasing the molasses concentration, which leads to a brown sugar mixture somewhere between light and dark brown sugar. Next up is unsalted butter. Conveniently, the masses are listed right on the package. However, solid butter simply won't do for our purposes. Drop the saturated fat stick into a glass container, then place it into the concentrated electromagnetic radar range. Making a silly face while you do it, you'll be using the process of dielectric heating for the polar water molecules to induce the required phase change. That's more like it. We're making a double batch, leading to about 30 cookies in total, which means we've got 2 sticks of melted butter going in for about a total of 225 grams. Whisk together into a sugary paste, then crack in 2 eggs and 2 egg yolks to up the fat content in the batter. Doing this leads to a sort of cakey, chewy sort of cookie texture, and trust me, it'll work out amazingly. Add your big old sugar and egg paste into the dry mixture and then begin to fold it all together with a rubber spatula. This is where having a stand mixer would be super nice, but instead we're using a bit of patience and elbow grease to bring it all together. Setting the oven now to 350 Fahrenheit and removing the cast iron, let's break into our chocolate. I'm personally a fan of bittersweet chocolate for the chocolate chunks, about 60% cacao, but adjust to your liking. I just think that the slight bitterness couples rather well with the sweetness of the surrounding dough as well as the added saltiness garnish down the line. And for this, kinda just go to town on the chocolate, breaking it up however you see fit, getting a range of chocolate chunks in multiple different sizes. Then into your bowl goes about 200 grams of the stuff. Bit more elbow grease to fold it all together, and then realize something's amiss. Almost forgot it. 12 grams of vanilla extract are added in, folded to combine of course, and then scoop your cookies onto a parchment-lined baking tray. Maybe space them out a bit more than I did. Some of them in the first row ended up running together when they relaxed. Square cookies aren't exactly the most pretty, but they taste mostly the same. But baking these babies calls for about 6 minutes at 350 Fahrenheit, then taking them out and knocking the pan against the top of the range. This is known as the pan drop method, which pops all the little air bubbles that the baking soda is trying so hard to make. What you get in the end are these real intricate nooks and crevices that make for an awesome chew in the cookie. So to recap, 6 minutes at 350 Fahrenheit, pan drop them to pop them, then back in the oven for another 4 minutes. Pan drop them once more, then remove to a wire rack to cool completely. Also, at this point you can garnish with a light amount of flaky sea salt. This creates a more complex flavor profile for your cookies and makes them look 100 times more professional. Taste-wise, these sea salt chocolate chunk cookies are incredible and best enjoyed with a glass of whatever kind of milk you prefer. For me, that's oat milk. It's a very pleasing texture and chew, a bit of salty layered in there, and of course a sugar rush straight to the brain. These cookies will be absolutely devoured at your next get-together. And at the end of the batch, you're left with a choice, either 4 to 6 smaller cookies or 2 big cookies. Obviously, I'm going with the latter. Same temperature in the oven, 350 Fahrenheit, but now it'll take about 20 minutes to bake, hitting them with a pan drop about every 4 to 5 minutes to break up the bubbles.
I regret nothing.
If you have made it this far, thanks for watching. You really should make this recipe for your family and friends and just tell them about the channel along the way. I promise you, these cookies are sure to please. That's all I have for you this time. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you all next time.